Mech Minutes.
When the clans first invaded the Inner Sphere in 3049, their society-spanning war machine was basically better than the Inner Spheres in every conceivable way. The inheritors of Kerensky brought along with them warships, incredibly advanced weapons, eugenics, and a general air of intolerance, but aside from that, their battlemech designs were very sexy. Clan mechs are in a league of their own, as they are a different type of machine known as omnimechs, which I will explain a little bit more in depth later, but first allow me to introduce our subject. This is a Bloodass, which gained some popularity as it was featured in some video games, and to be honest, it is just a very handsome mech design. As you can see, I had to scrape some primer off of it earlier, as I tried to make a video on this one, but the primer chunked up quite nastily. It was nothing that a few weeks soaking and rubbing alcohol couldn't fix, and after I reapplied the Zenithal highlight, it turned out fine. I am then going in with a dry brush of white to add a few extra highlights. As I will be using contrast paint for the base layer, the more contrast the better. As well as an enjoyer of battletech, I am also a lover of trinkets and doodads, so when I saw this patch of Clan Star Adder at my game store, I couldn't resist. This is of course the clan that designed the Bloodasp in 3060, and it is also the clan that this omnimech will belong to. I am painting up this Bloodasp in the scheme of the Alpha Galaxy, nicknamed Old Blood and Guts, 11th Armored Assault Cavalry, which has this lovely black, blue, and gold paint scheme. Many people choose to add a lot more blue and gold to their mechs when using this scheme, but I chose to just go straight with what I saw off the unit color compendium, sticking with the stripe around the torso and the limbs. As I begin painting up the joints and the blue stripe around the torso, allow me to explain what an omnimech actually is. They're basically a type of battlemech that has selectable loadouts. It stores many of its weapons and mission-critical components in what are known as omnipods, which can be hot-swapped should they get damaged or should the situation call for a different weapon. This allowed the clans to keep up a breakneck invasion pace in 3049, as they were able to get their mechs up and fighting way quicker than any Inner Sphere force could. However, this does come with a hefty price tag, meaning that the clans could only really outfit their frontline units with omnimechs while their rear ranks used standard battlemechs. This also created the logistical conundrum of needing to pack both omni-compatible weapons as well as standard battlemech weapons, as they were not interchangeable between the two platforms. One of my favorite parts about painting minis is always adding the fun little accent colors, which is to say that I am adding the little gold stripe around the blue. I also tried to spruce up the black base coat a little bit using a purple wash. It didn't work perfectly, but it was okay enough, and wiping it off with a damp cloth did add some nice contrast there. As I said earlier, I very much enjoy painting up the small little accent colors. That is to say that I will now be painting up the cockpit, which is often my favorite. It's fun to do a nice bright gradient on these ones, as it's kind of like a little jewel to denote where the head is. It's very, very entertaining. As for colors, I'm going to be going with the same that is in the image, that being a nice green to white gradient. While I'm here, I figure I will explain a little bit more about the story of this mech in universe. It was originally designed as an insult by the Star Adders to Clan Blood Spirit, which were their enemies at the time. Now, I don't know about you, but if my enemies ever named a 90-ton badass death machine after me, then I feel like I'd be more flattered than anything else. But the clans, being symbolic people that they are, see this more as, once we absorb your clan into ours, we already have this symbolic piece of machinery to immortalize that absorption, so I guess it makes sense when you look at it like that. All around though, it is a pretty potent machine, mounting 2 Gauss rifles, 1 in each side torso, 4 heavy-medium lasers, 2 in each arm, and 2 medium pulse lasers, again, 1 in each arm. It also mounts a Streak SRM-6 rack in the chest for close-range engagements, and this is honestly a pretty potent weapons mix. In terms of armor, it is a little bit lighter on there, mounting only 14 tons of standard, but it's still enough to get the job done. It is slightly on the slow side as far as clan assault mechs go, but it still moves at a respectable 64 km per hour, which translates to 4.6 on the tabletop. As far as cooling goes, it has 18 double heat sinks, which is about just enough to get the job done if you pace your shots, but it's not exactly great, especially for a mostly energy-based loadout. I will explain some of the other variants a little bit later, but for now I decided to do some object source lighting on the shoulder-mounted Gauss rifles. So to do this, I start off with a coat of white wherever I want the light to hit, and then I hit it with a thinned-down blue contrast paint to do most of the work, which I touch up with some normal paints a bit later. I took a couple shortcuts, but I really do like the end result. After painting the little missiles in the chest red, I started doing a technique that I've really taken a liking to doing on my battletech minis, and that is painting up all the heat sinks this nice glowing orange gradient, where I start off with a red, then work up to red mixed with yellow to create a kind of dark orange, and then finally working my way up to pure yellow in the middle. It creates this really fun, hot effect, which I guess is fitting for such a warm mech that this is. Being developed by a clan that didn't really participate in the clan invasions, it was virtually unknown to the entirety of the Inner Sphere, save the occasional Comstar report of it. That is until the Fed Sons were curiously able to acquire a handful of these mechs shortly before the FedCom Civil War, which, of course, they used in that Civil War to devastating effect. After the Wars of Reaving, it risked extinction in the Inner Sphere completely, until Clan Snow Raven revealed that they had actually managed to capture the Flans and restarted production in the Inner Sphere in 3142. Now that the mech is looking nice and warm, I'd say it's just about done. It is now time to start work on the base, and to do this I'm just going to start off with a layer of brown craft paint and then sloppily apply lighter and lighter layers of earth tones to try to give it a arid texture. I don't really have many good materials for making battletech bases in my current shop, but I am working on it, so this is kind of my impromptu solution. While I'm here, I'd figure I'd just rattle off rapid fire some of the variants and configurations of this mech. Alternate Configuration A adds jump jets, an ECM suite, and for weapons it has 2 ERPPCs aided by a targeting computer, and 2 heavy large lasers for close range fire. It does pack 11 extra heat sinks, but even still, this thing is nowhere near capable of firing all its weapons at once, let alone staying on the move, meaning that pacing your shots and heat economy is critical. Configuration B is a long-range fire support version of the Blood Asp. It has 2 LRM-20s with Artemis 4 firing controls, as well as a single Gauss rifle for long range, and should an enemy get close, it still has an ECM suite and 4 medium pulse lasers, meaning that this thing is still bristly at any range. I could go on talking about all the different variants of the Blood Asp all day. Some of them are quite interesting. You got ATMs, you've got the Hyper Assault Gauss rifles on one of the versions, but to be honest, the mech is done, and quite frankly, I'd like to end the video here. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this video where I paint up the legendary Blood Asp. If you'd like to show your support, a subscribe and a like would always be appreciated. If you have something to say, then make sure to leave it down below in the comments. But anyway, this has been Semi-Historical Wargaming. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and go out there and try to avoid doing crazy space eugenics. See ya!